Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, this thing is kicked off and doing well. And Jerry, I see you in there. And Chad, thank you. Appreciate you guys being here. Something right quick as I'm doing some setup. You see a Sean, yes, Frackberg, yes, you do. Hold on a second. Jerry, I'm going to make you a mod because I've already made Chad a mod, and just in case. There we go. Okay. Not going to do the headphones. I hear myself in there, and with about a 3 or 4 second delay, that is absolutely annoying. So, okay. So, hopefully, everything's going to turn out okay. Here's what I'm going to do today. I have a conference talk that I'm giving next week at Codepalooza. And what I need to do, switch over here and let's do a. Yeah, it is a big delay from me to where I'm seeing it in my other monitor, which is the same view that you guys see. Let's do code.com. So I'm giving a conference talk next week. Two of them. My microservices talk, and another one which is new. I'm still making it. Is the one on Azure networking. And my goal today is to work on building out some scripts with Pulumi so that during my talk, I can just run different sections and have it build a pre-designed thing, such as the virtual machine, the virtual network and some subnets and multiple virtual machines. Then I'm going to build out some at least one network security group. Then I'll build out an Azure load balancer for two virtual machines in a particular subnet. Then I'll build a route table and we'll build an Azure firewall. And then we'll set up the route table so that all of the internet bound traffic goes through that firewall. All of that is played out in the storyline of my talk. So that's what I'm hoping for today, and I'll see how far I get. I don't have a hard stop that I know of, but we'll get to where I can on most of this. So still clearing my throat. I'm already down to my second cup of coffee and sporting my Microsoft Azure coffee mug I got when I was up at Redmond in 2018, and heat sensitive, and has the Ninja Cat on top of the T-Rex. T-Rex has little grabber claws for its short arms. Sporting that today. Okay. So where I'm at with this is I did do the setup on my last stream, but unfortunately that was not recorded. I didn't know about the setting. Shame on me. So this one has already been set. It should be recording, and I am also recording locally just in case. So lesson learned. And let's see what else. So at my last stream, I went over setting it up, but a lot of that can be skipped. It really just depends on a few other details. And the default when you first create a project creates a resource group and a storage account. And you can flag with an attribute one of the variables or fields so that you can see it on the output after this runs. For this, it's nice to have, but I am not going to use it in this project. So I don't need this, don't need that. But this is what we're going to go over today is, yes, I do need a resource group. I don't need a storage account. If so, we can come back to that later. And let's see. So yeah, I'll build out a virtual network. And throughout the talk, today's session, if you want to, I at different times I'll ask and see if you guys want to provide a name, some funny name for some things. And obviously it needs to be safe for work, but I can be happy to work with it. So right now, let's see, the only thing I've got is, yeah, building the resource group and building a virtual network, which is just fine. So now what I need to do, I need to make some decisions here. The virtual network doesn't need to have that many addresses, but it doesn't hurt it if it does. And then I'm going to have 5, yeah, I'm going to have 5 different subnets for different types of activities going on in the storyline. So I'm going to have to make 5 different subnets, which also means I cannot return just one. I'm going to have to return a collection. The reason why I'm going to have to, I cannot just build a subnet, but instead reference a list of them, is because I'm going to have multiple VMs, and these virtual machines with their NICs are going to reference the subnet that they are to attach to. So I'm going to have to, I'll modify this a little bit. So first off, how is everybody? Some of you guys I haven't seen since yesterday. Not what I wanted. Let's do that. You can never type when you're on camera. Subnets. There we go. And let's initialize that. That works there. All right, so now this will go to void, and instead of returning that one, this can just be subnet 1 for right now. Let's go. Try typing when the microphone is in between you and the keyboard. That gets challenging as well. We'll do subnet 1. Okay. Now, currently, that subnet takes up the entire space of that virtual network, and I don't want to do that. So let's decide if I'm going to have 5 different subnets, what would be good for splitting them out. Okay, so let's do this one first. This is going to be suppliers. And I'm duplicating the name because if you do not specify this line, it will create the subnet, but it will append the name with random characters to help build in some uniqueness. But if you provide a name, then it will actually keep it as declared. So all right, this is going to be our, what I wanted to do, suppliers. This will be for the food. what else did I say? Clothing, farming equipment, and gardening equipment. So this will be garden. All right, what else? It's weird presenting to a group of people I cannot see. Okay. We'll have subnet. Let's do them in order, somewhat in order. This is going to be subnet food, subnet clothing, subnet farming, and subnet garden. There we go. All right, so we've got them added in. Jerry, you been playing with some toys? What toys have you been playing with? Or are you trying to name one of the subnets? What have I got going here? Yep, it does not return. Not return a single subnet, and now we don't need to pass a single subnet into the method for building a VM. So that's going to come out. And instead, what we will do, and this needs an ID, we'll go to subnets. And that I don't like to do. That's by index. I'd rather be declarative. So instead of a list, let's make this a dictionary. And then I'll have the key being a string. Okay, good. And then I will come back to here. And when I add them, yeah, let's do it this way. Okay. This will be suppliers, food, clothing, farming. Our next one will be garden. Excuse me. Then I can come back to here and reference that. We'll reference this guy by a name. No, I don't want location. Oh, there we go. This first one, we'll make it a supplier. And now that we have that, we can retrieve its ID. There we go. All right, cool. No reds. Now, something of interest too is, although it is best practice, and I'm happy to preach writing unit test first, when these are executed, they will go and build things out. So what I don't want to do is, well, is that true? Maybe it's not. But at the moment, all of these things are actually just building objects. There's really no logic to them. So it's really hard to unit test something that just to say, yes, a property was set. I don't recommend that. Much prefer to unit test where there's logic and to verify that your thinking is correct. Okay, so one of the things I definitely need to do is come back and make some decisions, because we'll quickly have a problem, because a /22 is going to take up all 1024 addresses. Well, I don't want that. Instead, I want it to be broken up into 5 different subnets. So let's build a handy dandy chart here. So we know that a 22 is for 1024. Come on, numbers. And a 23 is going to be half of that, so 512. 24 will be 128. 25 going to be 64. 26 will be 32. And a 27 will be, if I can find the right dang gum key, there we go. All right, probably don't need to go less than a 28, but I have done that multiple times in production stuff. So now, something to know about Azure Networks is that each subnet, you lose 5 different addresses. And what that means is from .0 through .3 are taken up. Come on. As well as .255. So we're used to, if you've done anything with networking at all, you're used to .0 and .255 not available to you to actually address to an item such as your Raspberry Pi or to a client machine, something to that effect. Hey, TBD Gamer, good to see you. Thanks for coming by. So with .0 and .255, they are pre-reserved with IP addressing, but with Azure networking, they also take .1, 2, and 3, and .1 is the subnet gateway. So when you're, say you have a virtual machine and it's going to head out to the internet, or it's going to jump across to something on a different subnet, then the traffic will first go to .1 by default anyway. All right, so what I've got a virtual network set out for 1,024 addresses. I've got 5 different subnets, but you cannot have more than one that takes up the whole space. So let's do this. Go to the handy dandy calculator. If I had, say, 64 addresses times 5, that's obviously, well, no, that would work. So basically, the most I can have is if I was to take 1024 divided by 5, then the subnets cannot be any larger than 204 themselves. So each could be then if I'm thinking correctly, so if I did 128 times 5, 140, it's plenty of space. Okay. So what I could do then is, out of my virtual network that has 1,024, and I've got 5 subnets, I can go ahead and easily make them 64 or 128. Now, I will say this. This is where architecture comes in, because once you have a virtual network and you have set the address space, and then you go create subnets, if there's nothing in the subnets, then you can resize them easier. You can make them grow, but it's really hard to make them shrink. And you can only grow if there is no neighbor. Meaning that if the next subnet is starting address is right after the other subnet, then you've got, you're kind of bound. All right, so now, so I've put myself in a bit of a corner. Let's see if you guys have noticed this as well. Because let's say I've got my first VNet, 1024 addresses. I'm going to build out my first subnet. And every VNet must have one or more subnets. So I have to have at least one. All right, so here's the thing. If I was to go, and let's say I make this a 128 addresses. 128 addresses. That part's fine, and it starts at 0.0. But I cannot do the same here. Because that's saying that this subnet is going to start at the exact same address range as this one. So that's a problem. All right, let's thinkify, shall we? Let's go to a subnet calculator. And I kind of wish I'd thought of this earlier, but I didn't. All right, IP address is 10.0. Subnet mask is on 1024. What if I was to do subnet calculator by CIDR? This might be a lot easier. And if somebody in chat knows a better way, please let me know. We have a starting IP address of 10.0.0.0. And what I'm curious of is the, yep, that's okay. That's a 1025, that's a 1024. Did I put that right? If I did a /24, it's 256. Ooh, I have something wrong. What? Nobody caught me on that? I had my mathification wrong for some of these. All right. Okay, I forgot my 256. So this is not 256 or 128. This is 256 addresses here. This is all magic to me. Okay. This is one of those things where I've dabbled in networking a lot, but there's always that one thing you thought you had memorized and then something will escape you. Okay, so when you're dealing with a virtual network, size of that network is defined. And what this is saying is that hosts, which are, it could be a PC, it could be a virtual machine, anything that takes up an IP address. And yes, certainly with Azure VMs, you can have more than one network interface. And each network interface takes up an address. Well, how many addresses are allowed for all the machines to be used? And if this was too small, then you're decreasing the amount of host servers or machines, whatever, that are allowed to be in that network. And on the other side, this can be too big, where you don't necessarily want to do a /8 here. And I forget off the top of my head what a /8 is. So if I was to go to 8, yeah, there it is. So 16,777,214 virtual machine or VMs, servers, whatever, you get the host essentially, are allowed on that one. Now, that's obviously too big, certainly too big for our needs. So I don't want to do that. But if I came to a /24, then I've got a 256 available addresses in that subnet. Now, notice that with the IP, by default, the first, the .0 and the .255 are taken, so you cannot use those. But in Azure, you also lose 3 more that are not available. So I expect my first virtual machine to start with a .4 address. Okay, so /24 is going to allow me 256. Here's what I'm needing to look at. If my first subnet is a /24 and it starts at 0.0 for 256 of these, I cannot also do that again for the next subnet. They would essentially be overlapping. So where does this one begin? Now, since the .0, the last octet here, is 0 through 255, that is essentially 256 addresses, what I should be able to do is simply that. I have a .1. This says this is now incremented to, on the third octet, that allows a new range of 256 addresses. Which then means I should be able to go here and do the same thing. So let's get this out here. So this starts at .2. This will be .3. And this will be .4. Oops, this needs to be a 24, yeah. Double checking. Okay. All right. So what I can do is I'm going to go ahead and run this and at least have it build out the resource group and the virtual network. Now, what's a good name for our resource group? How about, so if you just came in, I'm working on scripts that I'm going to use to build out Azure resources during my talk on Azure networking, and the talk is next week at Codepalooza. And I will drop that link in one more time because it's a great conference, and I hope everybody can join. Come see the awesome talent that, and if he's still here, Taylor and Code is the guy running that conference. And every year there's just fantastic speakers. I'm going to offset that curve because I'll be speaking there next week, so it won't be, the average will lower just a little bit. But if I wasn't there, that average of great speakers would just be way up there. So, but I still got to cut my teeth in speaking more at different conferences and such. And okay, I'll let them know about their SSL, and I'm sure Chad is listening in, so he'll attend to that pretty quick. Thanks for pointing it out. Okay, so during my talk, after I have this big storyline that's going to happen, and it's essentially analogous to a medieval times marketplace, and a structure is being sized up, and then they're going to build out an area for merchants and suppliers and allow for customers to come in and grab items. And I'll show the way this is referring to a networking, and then what Azure Network actually provides for this. So then I'll run these scripts so that at the second half of the talk or so is me showing in the Azure portal the different resources that are those different pieces of that storyline. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to build out this VNet. Oh, that's what I was going to do, is name this resource group. So how about we'll do marketplace. Okay, so Chad is all over that and taking care of that SSL. Sweet. Okay, so this is going to be our marketplace. Looks good here. Okay, now I'm going to go to, oops, get out of that. Okay. All right, now I should, let me go ahead and build that just in case. Okay, it succeeded. All right, so now I should be able to, now I did, oh yeah, let's do dev. Pulumi up. Yeah, create a new one. Okay. All right, so Pulumi is analyzing what is intended to be built. Now, I don't know that Pulumi is in charge of making sure your subnets don't overlap. That may be a runtime thing. All right, what did I mess up? So, okay. Let me do this, and so that I can cheat for just a moment and figure out. And you're still seeing my screen. Nope, nope, you're good. Okay. I need to find out why my settings are not allowing me in. Because that should have, with that service principal, should have been able to connect. So let me verify my tenant ID and other details on that. Tenant ID 3E5. Yep, yep, yep. Okay. Double check my subscription ID DFF. Okay, that looks like the problem. Let me get that fixed right quick. Right. Okay. So now let me do that. Okay, let's come back. Now we'll try that again. So I had to do some things offline so I don't dox myself. And that is I had a service principal created, and I had the client ID and the client secret, as well as my Azure subscription, the tenant ID, and I don't want to share that on the stream. Although I could recreate everything, it's such a hassle. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to go and create the resource group, create a virtual network, and then the 5 different subnets. And what this is saying is that I'm using something that's deprecated, and I'm supposed to be, yeah, Chad, no, we're all virtual friends, and virtually speaking, I don't want to even be virtually doxxed. So, yeah, we're not gonna do that. Okay, let's go ahead and say yes. I want it to go ahead and build out. the resources, and hopefully that works. And what you'll see, come to the home. I'm going to go to resource groups and then view, and I don't have it hasn't created it just yet, so that's fine. So let's go to resource groups. These are pre-existing ones, so what I will keep an eye on that. And it does take, now if you're messing with Azure, the Azure portal is slightly delayed, meaning that there are things that will happen when you create things, and it says it should be there, but it may take the portal about 30 seconds or so before it'll actually show up. So the portal itself is not real time. Okay. And just to help keep myself from being doxxed as well, there's a plugin in Firefox that is called Azure-Mask. And that is written by Brian Clarkio on Twitch. So a quick shout out to Clarkio on that. And there we go. So anyway, there's an add-on for Firefox that will hide and blur most of the GUIDs that we'll find for the various things. So I'm very glad that's there. Okay, so this has built out our resource group and has built out the virtual network 10.0.0.0/2022. And you'll see an address space. What you can do here, and I could remove it, and it actually, you cannot remove it. It'll actually fail because there's subnets. Just Firefox, that's the easiest one. Chrome flagged it because of a name violation. It didn't like the word Azure being in there. And but what you can do, I don't have it immediately available. You can look on GitHub. Fratberg, if you're, well, he may be just listening in. I think he said he had to step away. Yeah, you can find it on GitHub and then do a manual install for Chrome. It would randomly turn off. Ooh, that's not good. That is not good. I did find some screens that it does not hide some of the numbers, and I kind of wish it would. So I'm gonna talk with him about that and see if I can identify why. Okay, so why do I only have 4 out of the 5 subnets? Okay, it says it's done. Creating failed for the gardening. I may have typoed something. Okay. So when we get to garden, let's see, what did I typo anything? Now, it's possible Yep. I know exactly what I did. Exactly what I did wrong. Okay. Problem is if I have 256, hey, Rambling Geek, good to see you. If I have 256 addresses and I've got 5 subnets, that is beyond my 1024. I used the wrong number. Hi, Constefan Lirum79. Hola, how are you doing? I've watched, you've watched my channel? Well, cool. That's awesome. I appreciate that. About to design offline screen. Oh, okay. Oh, I see what's going on here. Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay. Well, since it's a bot, we'll delete it because I don't need it. Okay. Now what I need to do, instead of 256, I should have saw that earlier, is we're going to come back and we're going to have to shrink that down. So handy dandy notebook, 256, we're going to drop it down to a /25. Now, you notice that this is kind of what any network architect or cloud architect is going to have to deal with, is that sizing of what are the needs and for the space given. Now, I could increase this. I can change the size of the VNet. Instead of 1024, we could go to a /21, for example, which is 2048. Yep. Could do that, but I just don't need to. Not for this. All right. So what we'll do instead is we're going to take that to a /25, and we'll make that 128. And now let's see how well I can just cheat some of this. 255 /25 and garden's gonna be /25. Now, all right. Do we see our next problem? Now, there are no resources in or connected to these subnets, so what I'm going to try to do is see if it will resize the existing ones. If not, I'll just tear it down and rebuild. That's one of the great things about Pulumi, is that I can Pulumi up and then Pulumi down to destroy the resources that are there. And these will, if need be, these will be destroyed and then rebuilt. And these currently say 251 available. Now that we're shrinking this down, it should be 123 available once it's done. Again, each subnet, Azure takes 5 addresses. Okay, so let's update failed. I'm going to maybe a resizing issue. So let's do this. Let's tear it down. Nope, I mean destroy. That's what it is. Kind of weird if you think about it. Pulumi up, okay, and then it's not Pulumi down. That would make too much sense. It's Pulumi destroy. Give that a little bit. Okay. So we're still working on our first. Let's see. We don't need to worry about a quick demo. I don't know that I'm going to have time for that. So we're still working on our virtual network with 5 subnets for our goal today. Almost done. Now it's going to delete the virtual network and delete the resource group. That's all part of it. You can do a lock on there so that once it's created, it is not destroyed again. For right now, I don't think I need to worry about that. But unfortunately, the resource group takes the longest to delete. And then once that is done, I should be able to rerun Pulumi up and have it build things out. So, TBD Gamer, how are you? It seems like it's been yesterday since we've talked. So long ago. Rambling Geek, how are you? Doing good. It's been a few hours. Yes. Yes, it has. All right, let's see if Lumi will have any problems building this out. The other thing about Pulumi is C# is not the only language that it uses. In fact, that's the latest language that's being used. I believe it's either .NET or C# specifically in Pulumi has only come about in the last since January, I believe. I know what I did wrong. Rambling Geek, you were not feeling well, but you're feeling better today. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. Sounds like you're on the mend. That's good. All right, I need to let this thing finish. What I need to do, let's go back to that calculator here. And if I did a 25, is odd not streaming? Yeah, I imagine so. And I'm using a blue chroma key because I've got my background is solid blue so that I can do just some cool effects, but it's also picking up the blue on the website here and killing it as well. So I'm using a /25, but this is not giving me what I want. And okay, so I put myself into a corner, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's I need to know this. And you know, it still failed on that last subnet, garden. Not valid in the virtual network. Okay. Here's why. So I've got my 0.0, my 1.0, my 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0. So where's the problem? The problem is, imagine that the virtual network is the size of the of a backyard. It's your yard, it's fenced, and you place things just right in kind of block formation, where you're going to put your flower bed and where you're going to put the kids swing set and where you're going to place the sandbox. And then you realize, well, according to the address scheme, something you're trying to place is actually going to be in the neighbor's yard. That's my current problem. Now, if I was doing /24 and had a large enough yard, this would be fine. So I put myself into a new corner, which is good anyway, because I need to make sure this is top of mind for when I do my talk next week. So what are we doing here? If this is 0.0, the last third and fourth octet, this takes up 128 addresses, which means that the next available is not at .0, but instead is at 128, I believe. Then this will be .1. This will be .1/128, which puts this one at .2 slash. All right. That makes sense now. Now, I don't know if it makes sense for you. If it doesn't, let me know. So imagine that I've got a large block. Each octet goes from 0 to 255 because there's 256 available numbers there. But these were, at first, they were not next to each other. The gap was just as large as the block and did not need that. I don't need that for this. Plus, it put the last octet, I'm sorry, the last subnet, it put it into the neighbor's yard by being too large, placed at the wrong spot. So now, 0.0, then 0.128, because this is going to be from 0 through 127. This will be at 128 through 255. Then this is going to be 1.0 through 1.128. So you're right as far as I've got a 1024 addresses, but if I did 1024 divided by 5 subnets, The max I can have is 204. So obviously the 256 address space that I did have with the /24 will not fit in each subnet. So I had to drop it down to the next available one. So I'm using 128. So if I use 128 times 5, then the max addresses taken can be, as far as a count, is 640. So obviously a gap from 640 to 1024, but that's part of the problem of using a CIDR block, the CIDR. And that's a different discussion, and because I've got some better, well, I need to build out some better explanations of a difference of CIDR versus subnet masking. And let's see, it's not just about the total addresses you use. It's not because it's CIDR, TBD gamer. It's, let's see if I can, because, and this is a worthy discussion. If I have a subnet mask, 255.0, okay, that allows for 255 addresses, because it's going to allow the last octet to define where things are at. Let's see, where is that online calculator that looks funny? So if I have a subnet calculator and right, so if I get a subnet mask of what is just basically a C class, 255.255.255.0, this allows for anything in that fourth octet to be used for hosts. So the maximum is 256 numbers minus the 2, because for the reserve, so you have 254 hosts per subnet. And if I was to change the subnet mask, and I guess I cannot do this here on this utility, on this tool, if I made that a .1 or something like that, let's see if there's a better, let's go to class B. So class B now opens up the third and as well as the fourth octet. So if I did a 254, I got 512, 252. You can see as the binary is moving, it allows more hosts per subnet. The problem, though, is with CIDR is you don't go by subnet mask. You go by the bit number. So a /24, you're going to have a maximum address is 254. And as soon as I go to 255, it's in half regardless. I cannot do any magic playing around with the subnet mask bits. It's immediately in half because it's always left to right looking at the binary. I'm sorry. Yeah, left to right. So as soon as you add another bit, you're immediately in half. So there will always be unused space. And in this case, from 640 through 1024, it'll always be unused. That's kind of, it sucks, but at the same time, it's not that big of a problem. You can go with each. So you start out with a 0.0.0/8. You can have, that's the max virtual network you can have in Azure, if I'm not mistaken. You have this per subscription and per region in that subscription. So what this is saying is I can have this in subscription 1, region, let's say Central US. I can do that again in the same subscription, but I can do this in, let's say, East US 2, for example. So you don't want them too big. You do want to be careful of your sizing on that. You don't always get the perfect ranging and filling and allocating that you're expecting, but you do get a lot of room in there. Plus, you can, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could do something really weird. I could do a 120 dot, and I'm just picking numbers, just for the heck of it. Let's say 128.0, something like that. You don't, the addresses in the address space do not have to be in the non-routable range. You can use a public IP address range inside of a VNet, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't mean that it's public per se. It just means whatever range you're using. Generally, you're going to stick with the they're non-routable by the, I believe by the RFC, but so any router is going to say, well, no, and that's because of programming. They already have that range set aside and says, well, no, you can't route those. We're going to consider those non-routable, internal if you want, type addresses, but don't have to stick with that. Okay. All right, so let's see, where am I here on? Let's make sure this will build. Hope I have explained that well enough. If not, let me know, because I want to tweak that for my talk next week. Okay, so let's try this again and see what happens. If I had enough forethought, I probably would have destroyed it and let it try to rebuild before I went on that tangent explaining all that. Thanks for the description. That makes a little bit more sense now, and I'm starting to appreciate the difficulty in architecting this now. Yes, still have that dadgum error with Garden. Why? Worst case is I'm going to cheat and then figure it out later. That takes up 128, the next 128, takes up the next 128, takes up the next 128, and then this should be right after that one. So I don't know why this is having some issues with that. Now it says clothing is not not valid. Is not respecting my authority. You're right. You're right, Jerry. Why? Okay, I tell you what I want to do. Let me see if there is that. No, it's not there. Oh, I'm trying to remember where I saw this before. Someplace I saw where you could do a lock. And I don't remember where I saw that, and it's been a couple of months ago. Sure. Okay. So what I'm worried about is if the reason it cannot change is simply because once things are somewhat allocated, it's more of an Azure thing, I suspect, is once things are allocated and you're trying to resize some things like this through a script, it may have a problem with it. But it's also why we're building this part out before we start putting virtual machines in there. So what I do want to do, let me go to here. And something I should have pulled up earlier. Let me see if I can find it right quick. It's one of those things where I don't remember where it's at. API reference for Azure. Okay. So in the Pulumi docs, when you go to reference API and Azure specifically, you can see the different Azure products. And so I can go into network and look at a virtual network here. And so you got TypeScript, Python, Go, as well as C#. As I mentioned earlier, C# is new. It was brought in on around January timeframe of this year. Now, hopefully this thing is destroying. Okay. And while it's doing that, I'm going to see if I can find... Yeah, maybe that's it. New options, I believe. See if I can remember where this is at. Protect. That's it. True. Okay. That's what I was looking for. Okay. When set to true, protect ensures this resource cannot be deleted. I'm going to start using that because when I change out the virtual network pieces that I'm doing, I don't want to be constantly destroying and rebuilding the resource group. It takes too much time. So with that, let me make sure I'm saved, build succeeded, and let's go build this again. You're welcome to ask questions. I enjoy the questions, and as long as you're not a bot trying to sell me fake follows. Okay. Let's see what else. Looking at my security camera. Mail guy stopped by and taking a little longer than usual to drop off the mail. Didn't know if he had something else going on. Okay. Warning, warning, warning. Let's see what else we've got going here. Create the resource group, create the virtual network. Boop, follow. Yes, Jerry. So did everybody get the email that I was going live? I'm hoping so. Yeah, come on, Garden. Hey, look at there. Although we got a warning just because of that deprecated property that I'm using. But okay, fantastic. So now let's go back to here. Boom, there we go. All 5 are created and they're at 123. So remember that although there are 128 available on paper, the beginning of the subnet, which is usually a .0, and the end, which is usually a 255, if you want to think of it generically like that. Oh, what did I do to get it to work? Okay. When I made the change to use the /25, and I did the not, I basically I put the neighbors, so now that they are contiguous. So you have clothing from 1.0 through 127, because 0 is a number. It put farming at 1.128 through 255. okay, for that block. Then it comes to 2.0. What I did this, but then I went ahead and said, okay, well, Pulumi up again, and what it will do is analyze the changes, but it doesn't work all the time. And what I mean by that is Azure was more of the problem because of the type of resource that I'm dealing with. Since this was subnets, they don't like to just, and I say that word just, be modified in size. So sometimes the easiest way to modify their size is to destroy them and recreate them. So that's what I did. Was then I did a destroy of everything and then recreated them. That's what ultimately led to the success. Okay. All right. All right, great. So I believe I have achieved my first goal. Build the VNet with the 5 subnets. So got that one done. Fantastic. All right, so now I'm going to build a virtual machine, and because I need something cheap and simple, and I'm just going to go with Linux boxes. They're also the quickest to build and initialize versus the Windows ones. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a VM for each subnet. So over your right shoulder, your green sheet. Oh, it did? Yeah. The air kicked on. That the green screen is a green tablecloth hung on a PVC pipe, and I'm using shower curtain rings. Well, because I took the tablecloth and then I put grommets in it, and I've got this little, just cheap little shower curtain ring, and so it's hanging on the PVC pipe, and then I've got my curtain, that green tablecloth hanging off of the rings. So with the air kicked on, you probably saw it move a little bit. Oh yeah, I'm all about cheap. My first setup, I got less than $150. You know, all said and done, with the LED lights that I've got for my backlighting, my clamp lights, literally cheap clamp lights with LED bulbs, for my key light and my fill light. And other than my new microphone and my Scarlett 2i2, that was my most expensive buy so far, is the microphone and the Scarlett. So I'm all about cheap first, and since Stream Decks are hard to come by, I think one of the projects I'm going to do, and this will be a while from now, is I'm going to build my own Stream Deck just for the heck of it. It won't be cheaper; it'll just be more fun. So that'll come later. So okay, let's see. Oh yeah, and the tablecloth that I have here was only like $15. Then I went and bought another one that's black, that's right behind it to help block more light, because behind it's the window to my office here. Okay, so now we got the virtual machine. I'm sorry, the VNet build out and the subnets. They're much more available now. Everything else from Elgato, not so much. Yeah, the oh wow, that I can fix that right quick. Let's see what I want to do with this. Chad, you pointed this out before, and I did not fix that. So what I'm going to do is I've got this guy here. Give me just a second. I want to fix that right quick. Cat box. and OBS is messing with me. Yeah, and I saw some of the text going off behind it, and I then it just dawned on me, and it was, what's funny is that the chat box itself says to have a black background, but it's not doing it. So let me box that. I don't know if that helped or not. Okay, I may have to fight with that later because that chat box is supposed to have a dark background. Huh. Okay. Very weird. Okay, so for the heck of it, I want to try something here. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I did set this up some time ago. Oh. There we go. I don't know if that's better sized, and wow, I'm gonna have to fix the resolution on that. That's a good landing there, Chad. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that with InstaFluff, and I was like, I want to try that just because I kept playing it on other people's sites, and so I wanted to do that myself. So okay, all right, Chad. Yeah, I'll get with you and see if we can't work out that chat box area. I'm not sure why it is not showing up properly, even though I just added a black background for it, and it is still not doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, that would be one reason. That would be the why it's not black. Okay. Now let's see if let's do test. That's gonna hide more than I want. See you, Jerry. Thanks for stopping by. All right. Well, at least it's visible, but I don't like that. Now let's see. Okay. All right, that's going to drive me nuts because I don't want a black box right there. That's too much in the way. So I'm going to take that out, and we'll deal with the chat box later. Okay. And then I will. I think what I want to do is on a different at a different time. I'll come in and. Oh, what is that? Four. Eh. Okay. All right, I'm playing with the sizing on that drop game, just for the heck of it, because I think it's fun. Resolution's a little better. I need to play with it more. Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to shift over. I need to build a virtual machine, and we're going to start with one for each subnet, but I also need to have 3 VMs for suppliers and then 2 VMs for the food, and because this is part of the storyline. So we'll see how I get that to go here. Okay. All right, so now I also want to go ahead and protect the protect equals true. I'm going to go ahead and protect the virtual network and the subnets from being destroyed. So I'm going to come in and add some details here. That way, now that they're created, and I'm going to be building other things, probably destroying, so I don't want the VNet and the subnets to be part of that destroy. So, let's see, I think that's good. Okay, all right, so now let's shift gears. I'm going to build a virtual machine. And the first one, this is going to be okay, so my first virtual machine, what I want, and that needs to be replaced with the VM name. And the nickname is fine. However, what I would prefer to do is we're going to move this guy up, have it declared up here. And then I want each of the VMs that I'm going to create only need one nick. So let's do VM name plus the word nick, -nick. There we go. Okay. Then this one will be a supplier. So we can say build a supplier VM. Okay, now got our virtual machines. It's going to be a standard B1MS, and we're going to use Linux for this. It's going to grab from image, which is defined right here. And the OS type is Linux. Now, so this would be my first one. What I'm thinking out at this point is I do need 3 suppliers, so 3 VMs. How do I want to build the second and third one? I could just duplicate everything. Hey, Michael, thanks for stopping by. MB Crump, I appreciate it. Yeah, you caught me live. I appreciate you stopping by. That is awesome. So I know this is going to work. It's going to build the network interface first. And you have to have that before the VM because it has to be specified when creating the virtual machine. So how do I want to go about building number 2 and 3 for my suppliers? And here's what I'm getting at. Should I have a method that says how many I want to build? And it just loops through, and then this might be dash 1, 2, 3, something to that effect. I don't know yet. What would it hurt if I did that? Since they're going to be in the same subnet, I think that'll be fine so far. Nothing else is really that specific. So what I could do is say, okay, let's do that. No, I'll tell you what I want to do. Let's do this. Let's do private void build supplier. VMs, and then we'll say, well, how many do you want? Let's do count of VMs. Okay. And having that microphone between me and the keyboard is getting to be interesting. So what I could do here is say, let's do some quick guarding. We can just say that if the count of VMs is less than 1, then we'll just return. Nothing to do. Else, we will do a for loop. Let's do count of VMs. That's fine. And then we'll do build of I. And okay. So I am going to go ahead and build a looping mechanism just because I know that I'm going to have more than one. So let's come back to here, and I will say build 3 of those virtual machines for the suppliers. All right, so then what I want to do is we'll just do some tiny concatenating. In fact, I don't like count. Let's do index. I think that'd be kind of a better name for it. Then this will be plus index. Spacing matters. Okay, dash Nick, VM name. Yeah, this would be fun because I don't want to number the Nick. Yeah, I think I'd rather do that. I'm going to have, this is the NIC that belongs to the VM. And yes, you can have more than one NIC to a virtual machine, but at the moment we're only going to have one per machine, so we're good there. IP config is still per the NIC, not more global than that, so we're good with that name. Dynamic is just fine, although, and this is one thing I do not like about Pulumi, is it uses magic strings. So I could, and I've done this in a previous project where I created a class of constants that had dynamic, well, actually it had constants, but also had some enums for dynamic and static, and so you knew you can choose one or the other. And IPv4 versus v6, etc. So you notice that the one thing that is one thing else that's hard coded about this level is suppliers, but it's also specified in the name. So when we're being sort of domain specific, if you will, the name is what's helping to give the clue as to what the VM is for. And hence using it in our, when we grab the subnet it belongs to. And I don't think I need to be any more custom with this. So, okay. I think we're good here. All right, let me go ahead and save. Let's build succeed. Let's do Pulumi up. And now what that should do is, because now I'm referencing the methods in the script here, it should go through here and it's analyzing the code and it says, yeah, the VNet and the subnets, they're protected. And it's going to go and create, here's our plan, right? It's going to create 3 NICs and 3 virtual machines. And you remember the top 2 problems with programming, right, is cache invalidation, naming things, and off by 1 errors. So there we go, naming things. Okay, so we're going to say yes. And hopefully this is building out our virtual machines. Now, since we're talking about 3 VMs, and it takes, I mean, relatively, they are fast to create a virtual machine. So I don't think this will take any more than about, say, 4 or 5 minutes to create. Now, one thing we can do, while we're playing around with this, let's go back to our resource group, the RSG Marketplace. And you can see the virtual machines being created here. There's 2 out of the 3. Now, that doesn't mean they're done just because they show up. The portal, it's on its own timeline as far as when it gets messages about the creation and changes of resources in a resource group. And so sometimes it's immediate and sometimes there's a delay. So always anticipate that there being a delay. And since I know that I just created the items, then I'm going to just leave that be, because I know it's going to take several minutes for them to work and get caught up. Now, one thing I did not do is set up a boot diagnostic storage, and I can worry about that later, and I'll show you why that's a good thing to have. Okay, so for those just joining us, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I am doing a conference talk next week at Codepalooza. And let's do another shout out to codepalooza.com. Okay. A great conference happening next week. I'm one of the speakers. I'm going to speak on microservices as well as Azure networking. And I've got a storyline built out. I've got some more graphics coming in. Some of it I'm doing, some of it a friend of mine is doing, I bought. But the idea is from a storyline of a medieval time period. There's this marketplace where customers can come in and buy things. So there's merchants, but there's also suppliers. And there's a whole storyline, and that storyline is to help kind of show actually how networking is done. It's meant to be at a fun, high-level area. Then we'll come back in. I'm going to run some scripts to build out the virtual network with the 5 different subnets and suppliers, food, clothing, garden, farming, because that fits the storyline that's coming up. And then we're going to build the VMs that, in this case, there's 3 VMs for the suppliers. And then we'll have 2 for the food subnet, and then I'll have 1 each for the other ones. So let me define that one out right quick. We'll say 1 VM for clothing subnet, and we'll do 1 more VM for the garden subnet, and then 1 VM for let's see what else is left. Farming. Yep. Farming subnet. And maybe I'll change my mind on some of the storyline, and maybe it's not. I definitely need 3 suppliers, but maybe it's not 2 for food. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. And let's see. Yes, I got the rest of them. Okay, good. All right. So now this actually, all right, great. We're done. This has created the 3 network interfaces and the 3 virtual machines. So we're good there. So now what I can do is come back to the portal. Let's go to VM 0. All right, so it's built out. It's got an IP address. And you notice that although it's VM 0, it has an address of .6. If I was to look at VM1, it has .4. Now, that's going to be the lowest number you'll see in the subnet because, hey, Harold, thanks for stopping by. So .0 through .3 is taken, and the last number in the subnet is also taken. So the first available number you'll see is .4. But you also notice it's VM1, which means that they were actually built out of turn. They were not specifically made in the order you would think they were. If that's a problem, you'll have to change up your script a bit. And I think what you'd have to do is say, all right, build me supplier VM 0, now build me number 1, now build me number 2. so that they're more defined. As well, you could change that to static, and in which case you would have to supply the IP address and hope that, because you won't know it until runtime, would it matter what IP addresses they were assigned? Yes, it does. Because if I was to specify an IP address here and make it static, I may not know that it's actually already in use until runtime, and then it will fail to build, and then I got to do, deal with the error and redo some things. Now, the trick is, if I wanted to, it just depends on how much effort I want to put into this. With this, let's say I go to VM1 and he's at a .6, right? And I can go to networking. Let's go into that interface there. And if I go to the IP configuration, click on this guy here, and I change that to static, I could change that. But see, right now, let's say go to .4. And it will say that, first off, the VM will have to be restarted because I'm changing the IP address to static. That's not surprising. But at some point, it's going to say, oh, wait, that answer is already taken. And it will fail. Now, if I was to go, well, I know for a fact that one's not taken, okay, fine. It'll just do its reboot and it'll build it out just fine. If I was to define it here and say this is going to be, now you notice that I'm looping through, so I'd have to be programmatically careful of what IP address I give it. So, but you can, I'll put it that way, you can do that. Okay, now I'll show you something else right quick. So I'm looking at my, don't save that. So I'm looking at my virtual machine, and let's say that I have no access to it. So if I'm looking at this network card, and it's in that supplier's subnet, there's no inbound rules, there's no outbound rules, there's no application security groups, and no load balancing, meaning that it's not been assigned to a load balancer. And there's no public IP address. How would I get to it? Because there's no guarantee that anything is running on the Linux box that says that port 22 is available for SSH. What you can do is go into Serial Console through the portal. And in this case, because I haven't set it up, you can do this, and I may do this later, is set this up to use boot diagnostics. So, all right, let's go and enable boot diagnostics. And let's see, I'm going to go and create a new storage account. Now, here's a problem. If I create a storage account here, it's going to put it in the same resource group. But everything about that resource group is built by Pulumi. If I go change things, then I am out of sync, and it will have a problem with that. So I don't want to do that. So I'll just hijack a storage account that's in a different resource group that Pulumi doesn't know anything about. When I say Pulumi, what I'm referring to is the Pulumi stack. So when I got started with this, I created what's called a stack, and I believe it's just called dev, and I should be able to, let's see, Pulumi stack, I think it's list, let's double check. Never realized how, there we go, LS, okay. Never realized how dry your nose is until you're on camera, huh? Okay, so dev. Dev is the name of my stack. This stack is not aware of the other resource groups in my subscription here, which is fine. I don't want it to know about it, but since it knows everything about RSG Marketplace, it's best not to manually build things, because then you're going to confuse and get out of sync with what the stack knows. So, All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cheat. I'm going to. So if you're for you, it's your nose. For me, it's my throat. Yes, and well, I was clearing my throat earlier, and in fact, it's time for more hot coffee. I really enjoy some of that. Okay, so let me save, and I'll put this to that storage account. Even though I'm in meetings all day, being on Twitch seems to make a difference. Yeah, yeah. I don't know why, but there's also that you're on camera to an unknown number of audience, and then you got guys like MB Crump coming in, and you're like, oh man, I gotta straighten up. I gotta make sure I'm doing all right, right? And get you get some other people come in, and you gotta make sure you're doing good. Okay, so I've saved the boot diagnostic. So what I'm gonna do now that I'm assigned to a storage account, I can go back to Serial Console. And I love this because I don't have to jump into the network. I don't have to do a VPN connection or anything like that. I can come through the portal. And yeah, TBD Gamer. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like when I did my first stream that was accidentally not recorded, I was really nervous. But yet I've stood in front of 200 something people and did a conference talk. Yeah, I was nervous, but got through it. And it's one of those things where once you get through it and learn, and you're just better for it, then I get better. So this is not admin. So what I'm going to do is go back to Serial Console and log in as this is not admin. You actually cannot use the word admin as the login. It's actually not allowed. All right, so now I've logged in. Well, you would think I did. This is not admin. And make sure I grab that right. Oh, I forgot that little bang on there. Okay, there we go. This is not admin. Go back to the portal. Okay, log in as that. Yes, I do miss seeing visual cues for feedback. It really helps because I can tell by somebody's face or body language if something I was trying to describe didn't really hit home, then it's my cue to maybe if I reword it for just a few more seconds, then I might be able to get that better explained. Just because I have an explanation doesn't mean it hits home for everybody. So I definitely look for that to see if I can better help as many people as I can. Yeah, Harold, you don't know if you're connecting. So that's where you're going to have to rely on the people in chat and certainly with my stream here. And I know Chad with Tell Learn Code and Michael with MB Crump. And, just to name a couple is if you got questions, please ask. And Harold, I know you do that too. If you got a question, ask. My imposter syndrome goes to max override while streaming. And you're not alone, right? I don't. I'll bet you if you asked most people that you have watched on stream, do you have imposter syndrome? I'll bet 99% will say, yep, I certainly do. Thor August, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate this. Yeah, imposter syndrome. It's a weird thing that a lot of people have it. And we first have this blush that we're the only ones that have it, and it's not true. Okay, let me do this right quick. I just want to point this out. This is something that I do when I'm judging some connectivity. For one thing is I don't use ping. I try not to anyway, because ping can be misleading. You might have something where it's not connected or ping doesn't work, but you still have network connectivity. So you got to understand some different pieces about ping. And I'll explain that in just a second. So with being a Linux box, in Ubuntu 1804 in this case, curl is already in there. So I can do curl, go to Google and Great. Which proves it's able to get out to the internet. All right. So if I did IP address, and this is the .6, so I can do ping 10.0.0.4. Okay. And great. Ping is successful. All right, let's go to .5. Yep. All right. So I have my 3 VMs. They're all in that subnet. The reason I say that you can't always trust ping. Oh, hold on a second. I know I have imposter syndrome. And the moment goes away, I see one of David Fowler's tweets and realize how little I really know about C#. Man, look around because we're all in the same boat, right? And that's one of the greatest things about the stuff that we play with is there's always so much more to learn and do. It's one of the great things about it. So yeah, it's all about exposure to different things and not being the one that knows everything, and so it's so much fun to learn. All right, so the reason I say don't always trust ping is when you get further into setting up your network, and that's one of the things I'm going to do. I don't know if I'll have time to do it today, but for example, you might have a network security group set up with some security rules that says you can do this but not that, and you try to prove that out, and then you got ping that's not working and you think it should. It can be misleading, so you're far better off maybe with like a telnet, or I use curl a lot, so things like that. So okay, all right, so now I have on my agenda, I have the 3 VMs for the supplier subnet. That one's done. I think what I'll do is put this at the beginning here. Let's do it that way. All right. Let's see. In fact, I shouldn't already have them filled out like that. Okay, so now I need 2 VMs for the food subnet. Okay. All right, so now how much of this do I want to copy paste? I want to be kind of careful about that. Traceroute is your friend? Sort of. If I'm not mistaken, Traceroute uses ping. It uses ICMP behind the scenes as part of its thing. So ping is the ICMP protocol. And I think Traceroute uses ICMP as well. So it can be misleading as well. So you can try it, but don't be surprised if it doesn't show you everything you would expect to. What I can show you is there's a thing called the Network Watcher. And this is going to be, this is definitely a topic for another day, but you can set up a Network Watcher, and it's similar to Wireshark in a way. I'll say similar, I'm going to say that loosely. But you can set up things to watch for network traffic, and it will let you know a little bit more details. And Harold, to your point, it lets you know where the packet dies. You are right, but at the same time, you can block ICMP and still have a valid connection. So there's times when you don't always want a virtual machine to have be able to reply to pings because it could be distracting, almost like a DDoS, distributed denial service attack kind of thing. Okay, I say that because I've built out stuff for security means, different VMs, and working out, looking at attack vectors, and building out a subnet for DMZ, and what's allowed, what's not allowed to talk to each other. So you're right as far as traceroute, but I can also configure things where it's a valid route, but you can't tell because we're not with traceroute. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm building my supplier VMs, but now I need to build another 2 for food. And really, the only distinction out of this between supplier and food subnet is going to be the subnet name. Because I really, for my purpose, the username password's the same. That's all fine. If I needed to, I could copy paste and make another method for this. And you realize after a while that it could be you're duplicating things, and I can. I think what I would prefer to do though is go ahead and put a no, see, I don't want that. Yeah, okay, yeah, I can do that. Let's do that. I can do the subnet name here. So I go, what's the number? And then what subnet does it belong to? And for the supplier, now, so then this takes away, and I can say build a VM, right? Because now it's no longer supplier specific. And here I'm going to say supplier. Now, let me go back to my VNet suppliers. You notice it's plural. Okay. So I'm already getting into the magic string problem. Because I would have said supplier, then it would have failed at runtime going, nope, there isn't a subnet called supplier. All right, so now what I could do, let's do this one, and instead of supplier VMs, we're going to do food VMs. How many? And let's do food. Then I can come up and say, now we're going to build 2 of those guys there. Okay, so now I'm going to build 2 VMs specifically for food. And if you're thinking there's a lot of room for some refactoring, you're right. What I'm attempting to do now is not so much make the code clean as operational. Specifically because when I give my talk on the network, I just need it to run. I don't need, I'm not going to be showcasing the code as I am here. So my first objective is to make it run at all. Okay, so got our VM. Okay, let me double check the name. So this is going to be VM0. Okay, that's going to be a problem because there's already a VM0. All right, so let's do this. And how about we do, gosh, VM prefix. Okay, so now instead of VM, it's going to be this. And this guy will be, these are going to be the VM food. Now, I'm going to leave this as VM, and the reason why is because they are already existent. If I go and change the name, then what this will do is, it will, I don't think it's going to go and change the name of the existing VMs. I think it'll more likely just build out 3 more VMs for suppliers because it says the stack says, oh, they're not already there. So, all right, let's see. Now, if I was to destroy the VMs and come back, that's fine. I don't mind doing that if need be, but it takes a few minutes. So, all right, so now let's say we got VM food 0, 1, 2, whatever. Then VM food dash nick, that's not a problem. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good here. Okay. So, build 2 VMs for the food. Okay. All right, let's make sure that compiles just fine. All right, then we will do Pulumi up. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's double check this. All right, it sees that we're going to build 2 NICs and 2 VMs for the food. They're going to be in the food subnet. All right, so we're going to go yes. Let's go ahead and build those out. And while that's doing that, I have not finished setting up the size of the screen for the drop, but you're more than welcome to play with it. Little fun thing to do while the VMs are being created, huh? And that's thanks to InstaFluff. And that is available as well to anybody else that wants to put that on their stream. All right, and if you got any questions about what I'm doing, let me know. TBD Gamer, I feel that way too. I've done that on him and Frank Bechero's channel as well, and rarely am I even close. Do this while I'm thinking of it. You guys can tell me this. What's the other number in the ratio with the 1080p? What is the okay, let's see, this is done. It says it's created them. So if I go back to 1920, let me try that. Yeah, is 1920 the width or the height? You would think I would know by now. Okay. Yeah, 16 by 9. Okay. All right, so now let's see if that looks better. I think that was my problem earlier is I didn't set up the ratio correctly. Yeah, there you go. So now, TBD Gamer, your odds of landing are even worse because now it's scaled differently. Okay, so I've got my food VM 0 and 1. Now let's double check that the food VM is in the proper subnet. Yep, it's got a 132, which is above the 128 address. So we're good there. Okay. Tell learn code lands. Chad, didn't you land like really well earlier as well? I think it's Chad. I think he's got this figured out. Okay. Hey, Callow Creation, man, thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. I don't have a bot running. At least yeah, I don't know if the default one will do that or not. Yeah, man, Callow, man, it's awesome you're here. Appreciate it. Oh, TBD Gamer lands. That's awesome. Needs more tweaking. Last time it was a bullseye for Chad. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna have to fix that. We'll invert the rules for Chad to he can't land there. So okay, so now I need a 1 VM for each of the other subnets. So now that I've got this kind of looped out for what I need, Like I said, I know this is going to be slightly repetitive, but I need to make it work first, and then I'll do some cleaning up. So this is going to be for the clothing subnet. So clothing. Gotta be careful of my magic strings. And this will be VM clothing. Okay. And then I need one more for the garden. And I'm already getting ideas on how to refactor this to be more better. We got to betterfy it. Clothing, gardening, and I need farming. Okay. So this will be farming. Farming. Okay. All right, so now what I need to do is reference them just so that they're in the list. Build clothing, I just need one. Build farming, I just need one. And build garden. Just need one. All right. All right, let me launch that. Okay, so that's building. What I'm going to do is run Pulumi. Okay, so for like Calo Creation and anybody else that is stopped by that's new and haven't gotten what we're doing here, I'm going to be giving a network talk next week at Codepalooza. And I'm doing a talk on microservices, but one of my other talks is on Azure networking. And during that talk, I need to execute some scripts that's going to build out some Azure resources for me. So it's like good timing. What I can do is on stream today is work on using Pulumi to build out the scripts for building those Azure resources. So things like Azure Resource Group and the virtual network. Hopefully I'm not muted. I don't see that I'm muted. My mic is working. Okay. Woo, man, TBD Gamer, you scared me. All right. So anyway, I'm using Pulumi so that I can use C# to build out Azure resources. So what this is doing right now is it's building the other virtual machines. I've already created the virtual network and the subnet. And now we're getting caught up on the other virtual machines that I need for this segment. So this, thankfully, these virtual machines, they're small and they're based on a Linux image, and there's really nothing else custom to them. So they build within just a few minutes. And then after I know that they've been created, oh, fantastic. So that Pulumi says they're done. Come back to here and go back to my marketplace resource group. Look at my list of virtual machines. So this VM 0, 1, and 2, they were created before I started doing some refactoring. So here a little bit later, I'm going to destroy, and then I will do a complete rebuild. But I'll do that off stream just because it takes a little bit of time. So I've got my garden, food 0 and 1 because I've got 2 in that subnet. Now, let's go look at garden. And garden is in the 2.4, so it's in the .2 octet, which is great. That's in its right subnet. Okay. Farming is going to be 1, and you notice it's at 132, and it's above the 128 line that we were talking about earlier. Then clothing, I think this is going to be, yep, the 1. This is going to be in the lower section of that. So, okay. All right, so now all the VMs have been built. Okay, so whoops, we're good there. All right, so all of that is done. In fact, I don't need that. Okay. All right, so now what I need to do is build out a network security group. And this is a little tricky, but I tell you what I'm going to do is I am going to go take a quick break. And because I am going to refresh my coffee, check on the family right quick. And so I will be back in, 5 or so minutes. So I'll see you in just a bit. What do you mean drop doesn't work on that screen? Oh no. That's funny. I didn't even think about that. I was trying to be somewhat fun with that, but tell you what I can do. Go to, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay. Yeah, let me do this. Add our browser source. And let me double check. Go. Okay. All right. So now, yeah, and all right. So now it should be fine. I don't know if it'll let me drop again, but go ahead and try that now. You can see if it's working. There we go. All right. Now I don't know if it'll when I switch back, I don't know if it'll stay. It should stay running. Let you guys land first, and then we'll see. Oh, I think nope, nope. Kylo's gonna drop a little further behind. Yeah, it's not working. Yeah, Chad didn't land in the right spot, so that's not good. Ancient Coder, man, good to see you. All right, so let's get back to it. Okay, something I was thinking about is how am I going? Well, I need to be able to prove that the nope, that's not the folder I'm looking for. Where's the folder I'm looking for? Oh, it is, because I'm going to need to, for the network security group, I'm going to need a little cheat sheet on this one. Let's use, yeah, I could do that, I guess. Okay. Let's do that. Okay, so here's where we're at. Building resources for a user group talk, a conference talk I'm giving next week on Azure networking. So, codepalooza.com is the site to the conference, and Tell Learn Code is the guy that runs that conference. And fantastic conference, but this is my first time to be there, so I'm excited about it. It's all virtual, and I'm giving my talk on microservices, but as well on Azure networking. So this is me building out some scripts that I'm going to use during that talk, so that as I talk about different parts of the Azure networking pieces, I can kick them off and get them built in time and set up as I talk through them or talk about them anyway. You can try. You can tell I'm trying to think and speak at the same time. It's not really going well. Words. Okay. All right. So what I've got so far is I built out a virtual network. I have 5 subnets. You can tell by the subnet names: suppliers, food, clothing, garden, and farming. They're fitting to the storyline that I haven't really explained. You got to come to the conference for that part. And now I'm building out my virtual machines for those different subnets. Now, something I need to do now that I've got a network security group is I want to be able to set up and prove some connectivity so that we have a before and after a rule is applied. So one of the things I want to do is let's go to the food VMs, and I need to go to boot diagnostics, and I'm going to turn on boot diagnostics for that to an existing storage account. Finally, a stream you're interested in. Did you use Terraform? I did not use Terraform. for this, I have used Terraform in the past. I like Terraform. I've tried Ansible, and I'm actually a contributor on Ansible now because I found a problem that they had, and I fixed it. And they accepted my PR, but I would still prefer Terraform over Ansible. The reason I'm playing with Pulumi is because it's C sharp to to build these resources, whereas Terraform is a configuration file. And off the top of my head, I please forgive me. Terraform, it either uses a JSON file or it's HCL. I don't remember which. Basically, it's their own. If it's HCL, it's the HashiCorp uh, configuration language. And there's really nothing wrong with it, but using C sharp with C sharp developers is it's already familiar, and where it is HCL. Yep, thank you. I appreciate that confirmation on that. I've used Terraform. It's probably been close to 6 months or so ago, so I couldn't remember immediately off the top of my head. So thanks for the confirmation. And but so with Pulumi, I've just been playing with it. They just brought in .NET. It's either .NET or C sharp specifically with their library just this last January. So far, Pulumi's been great, and it's done exactly what I need it to do. And there's a little caveats here and there. And you're currently working on defining your whole infrastructure in Terraform. Yeah, and that's a good way to go. You're at a meetup where some guy presented Pulumi. Yep. Yeah, and I like it. I really don't have a preference of Pulumi over Terraform at the moment. It's more of half, six of one, a half dozen of the other kind of statement on that. But for me, I guess done more C sharp, and I kind of prefer it this way, and I can do cool things. For example, when I built out the virtual network, I have a list of subnets because the subnets are used at various other places. So I guess you can see that as a pro and con, where you get the ability to have a collection of subnets, or you have to rely on Terraform HCL to do it for you. So I'm not sure. More, I guess you'd have to play a lot with it just to figure out what bit fits your fancy. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this, but this is what we were talking about earlier with the virtual network is the size. If I have a /24 subnet, then it only allows 256 hosts, but in each subnet, you lose 5 of the addresses because Azure takes 5 addresses per subnet. So if you get into a /29, for example, you only get 3 hosts that you can work with. So you got to be kind of careful and very intentional on that. Swathorn says, I'm actually a dev turned into ops, so I prefer Pulumi, but since it's not so popular, we went into Terraform. That's true, but the cool thing about, although the Pulumi is not as popular, HashiCorp is. And HashiCorp made Pulumi. So at least it has that to stand on, and I don't see Pulumi going away anytime soon, especially with let's see if I can go back on to, Pulumi will run on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, works with Kubernetes, and there's a whole list of providers of not just clouds, but resources such as Kafka. that in Auth0 and Okta that it will work with, and even PagerDuty. PagerDuty is not a cloud, but they have a provider for PagerDuty so that you can work with it. Excuse me. Chad, I think you were just talking about having the throat problems when you're streaming, right? So, am I sure HashiCorp made Pulumi? Well, sure thought they did. I could be way wrong. Maybe they did not. Pulumi is its own company. So that begs the question, why did I think that HashiCorp made them? Huh. I don't know. Good catch. I guess I was mistaken on that. Huh. I don't know. I don't know why I thought that. So, I think I pushed the mic button more than any other on the Go XLR. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a quick mute button at the moment, so I'll work on that. Yeah, made by some engineers from several large companies. Yeah. As far as you've heard, yep. Considering what all that they are already working with, I'm intrigued. I'm really excited about Pulumi. So this is like I said, you can do Terraform. I'm sorry, not Terraform. You can do Kubernetes with it. So you can get into, if I went to Azure AD versus Azure DevOps, which is fantastic. So if I go to Azure and look at the library, this is more of the setup. It's not really where I want to be. Let's go back to here. And let's see. So I'm in the Azure modules in the reference API. Let's see if it's quickly available when I'm looking for. I don't know if it is or not. So I know you can do Kubernetes. I just don't see Azure Kubernetes specifically spelled out, at least in this list. It's probably someplace else. But that's another topic for another day, because that would be a much bigger deal. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing at this moment, now that I've built everything else out, is network security group with network security rules. Now, what I was mentioning earlier is that I need to prove that a network security group rule is actually working. So what I need to do, let's go find the password. So make sure we don't tell anybody. Okay, don't dox me. Don't tell anybody this password. It's super secret there. Okay. All right, let's go here. This is not admin. Okay, so now I'm in this Linux box and it's at .132, and this is at food 0. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and jump over to, I'm going to VM food 1 here in just a second. Let me jump back over to the resource group. Let's go to VM 1 for the food. No, it already is. Where am I? There we go. VM food 1. I need to set up the boot diagnostics. Turn that on. Oops. I need that storage account. Yeah, thanks for catching me on that that name of who owned Pulumi. I really thought it was HashiCorp, but I'm mistaken. I thought I was wrong once, but I was only mistaken. So it happens. Okay, so I'm waiting on that to catch up. Once I have boot diagnostics enabled, then I can go to Serial Console and jump in. But I got to wait for this thing to catch up. Yeah, TBD gamer, have you ever done that? Have you ever been wrong, or you just mistaken? Yeah. I think it happens to just me, because not everybody can be right or wrong, something like that. You get mistaken a lot, yeah. All right. Why is this taking so long? And Rambling Geek is back. All right, I don't know if it's sometimes the portal can be, yeah, there we go, a bit misleading. Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Okay, let's jump in. This is not admin because you cannot use the username of admin. Let's jump in here and we'll go IP address, and we're at 133. So food 0 is at 132, and food 1 is at 133. Fantastic. So I should be able to ping 10.0.0.132. Yep, there we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is after I create the network security group, I'm going to add a rule that says these two cannot talk to each other. It's just for the point of proving that that it's working, that the network security group and that particular rule is working. So, okay, gotta be let's minimize some things so we can knock down some clutter. All right. This is where I was building out the virtual network and the subnets. And if you're like, wow, this is kind of messy and it's not really clean code, well, you're right. And we can, we'll I may do some cleanup a little bit later. I cannot worry about that today because I got to get it working. And all right, go to work, tune in some other time. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Southhorn, man. This is great. I appreciate it. And hope you have an awesome day. Okay, so let's see what I'm going to do here. Private void build NSG. Let's see, don't need a name on that just yet. Build out here. Okay. Now let's do var NSG equals a new network security group. Now, one thing I'm going to double check is the namespace because I want the Pulumi Azure network versus anything else. So that's good there. Okay. And remember, it's going to have a name. We're just going to be super simple on this one for now. I need new args. There we go. Let's build that out. And finish that off. Okay. All right. Yep. Location. This is going to be our resource group dot location. I want it in the same spot. The resource group name is also going to be resource group dot name. That way it's what tells it where to be built. And I do want to go ahead and override the name because if I don't, it's going to provide that name plus some random characters. All right, security rules. What I can do, this is expecting a list of security rules. So what I'd rather do right now, instead of specifying them all right there, I'm going to do them ahead. So let's just do rule 1 is a new network security group rule. And security rule args. Now, let's double check that, because security rules takes in a list of network security group security rule args. Okay. Exactly what I want here then. All right. Gosh, what happens when I get my mic in front of me and the keyboard. Okay, the name. This one will be block ping. Just something simple. Access is going to be allow. And this is as opposed to the word deny. And I'm not worried about a description at the moment. Direction is going to be inbound. And this is as opposed to outbound. The problem is, again, magic strings, where if you get them just slightly off, it's just not going to work. All right, priority. Let's just say 200 for now. It can be anywhere between 100 and 5,000 or 6,000, I believe. Now there are some. Every network security group has a default set of rules, and they're in the 65,000 priority range. And you cannot delete them and you cannot alter them, but you can supersede them, which will change what that default action. So, okay, TCP. This is as opposed to UDP. Now, let's see. Oh, no. I'll see. I want to block. Network security group. I'm going to block ping. So the options is this. UDP, TCP, and ICMP. I'm going to block ICMP. Okay. Now, the source here is going to be a new array. Hate that input list thing. We're going to do this, and we'll say 10.0.0 / remember the size of our subnet. Okay, what this is saying here is that if the source of this traffic that we're wanting to look at, if it comes from any virtual machine or any host really that is on that particular subnet, and I use the /25. If I wanted to say specifically 132, then I could do a /32, and it's only that very specific IP address. Whereas doing a /25 or anything other than 32 means this needs to be a range. And now, okay, let's double check something here. I'm just trying to block traffic between these two. Again, this is just to prove this out, but these are in the 132 range, which means this is a different subnet. So what I could do, if I wanted to, is a 10 dot here and then 128/25. Now this is going to block. Well, I mean, take that back. This is going to only worry about the traffic that comes from these two subnets. So this would be the other food VMs or the other VMs in this subnet. I can do that. I'm going to for now, just because. And then destination here. This is going to be a new array of string. And I'm going to say specifically, and I can do this here, 132.25. No, 32. Do your subnets have to match the actual subnets, or can you use a /24? You can use a /24 here. You can have a range that is not the full range of a subnet. You can do that. TBD Gamer, I'm sorry, Musical Bookworm, does that answer your question? 133/32. This means that I'm blocking, or any traffic that is from these two subnets destined to these two machines specifically on ICMP. We're already allowing them by default, so I don't want to allow, I want to deny. And block ping, as far as a name, is, the name has nothing to do with the action. So we have some ping action. We can allow or deny. Inbound from here to there. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else? You know, and Musical Bookworm, to your point, I could say something like this /28, and that's the beginning of a subnet. Top of my head, I don't know if this actually needs to be at the beginning of a subnet, or if I was to do that with a .6, which is not a beginning of a subnet, I don't know if that would provide an error or not. So that I'll play with later. I'm not sure on that one. Okay. But due to time, and I'm already almost 3 hours into this stream, I don't want to go too many tangents. Is there anything else on that network security rule? Oh, port. Okay. Let's do it up here. Source port ranges. This is going to be a new array. Get rid of that. And this is going to be star. Because I don't care about the source port. I do care, well, let me take that back. I can care about the source. So, but since we're talking about ping, we're going to block ping, then I don't care what port. But if I wanted to block SSH, then I can block port 22. In that case, that'd be the destination on port 22 with TCP on a deny. Then I would block access to port 22. So let me go back to any. Star is equals any. Okay, I answered your question. Great. Used to be system. Used to being able to specify ASA rules for continuous subnets with a single rule. Yep. Yes. Yeah, you can use encompassing like that. So yes, what I could do, you're right, instead of defining the two here, I could make that a /24. And now I've basically captured both subnets. The rule doesn't care that is more than one subnet. It doesn't even know for this part. So yes, I could leave it that as that specifically. That's a good call. Thank you. Something I'm going to do is var security rules. new list of network security group security rule args. There. And I'll do security rules dot add, and we'll do rule 1 like that, and it's going to say, hey, you can clean that up a little bit if I want. So yep, let's do that. And then security rules is going to equal to the security rules, my list up above. I like this because this block is cleaner than having it way built out, and I could minimize the different rules if I wanted to. And I just come up above and add another rule if I want to. And tell you what we can do right quick is let's duplicate this rule, and I'll show you real quick. The variable names, they don't matter as to the Azure resources. That part doesn't matter. This will be, let's say SSH. This is going to be TCP on port 22. Now, this will matter. The priority, 200 and 200, that will matter. It will fail at build. Not solution build, but when you're building the resources, it'll fail because that priority is already taken. All right, so in this case, I'm blocking port 22 on either of these two boxes. And I don't have to specify the /32. You can do it without it, and it's the exact same thing. But you may see in other parts of the Azure networking where it is specified, and it makes it very declarative as to exactly what that is. And /32 is the highest you can get on that. So it is the exact IP address. All right. So SSH will deny access, and I really don't have a way to prove this out right at the moment. So let me do this though. I'll add it, and we'll just show it being created. Okay, now one other problem. Just because I create the rules and I create the network security group, it's not effective at the moment. One more detail we have to do. New network. I'm trying to remember the exact name of it. Security. Oh, where is it? Where did it go? I believe it's that. Network interface. Nope, that's application security group, but very, very close. I need that. Network interface security group association. Okay. And I don't even know why there's a name here. Association 1, whatever. Okay, let's do a new here. All right, now network security group ID is going to be our nsg.id. And this is tying it to the network interface. Now, I can tell you already, this is not the one I wanted because that is to the network interface. A network security group can be tied to a network interface specifically. This is not what I want to do. Instead, I want to have, and I do not remember the exact name of it. Let me go to my cheat sheet. Because, yeah, there we go. Okay, that's what I had wrong. I want to tie the network security group to a subnet network security group association. What this does is says that the network security group then applies to the subnet as a whole. So now I need the network security group ID. So network security group is nsg.id, and I need the subnet. So subnets, and we're going to put this on the food subnet, and I need the ID. Okay. Let me build that right quick. So we're going to build an association. So this is what's going to, just because you build a network security group, it can exist without being associated to anything. It's just not effective to anything. This is what's going to tie this network security group with its rules to this subnet. Now you can also, and you notice this is one off. What I could also do is do this again and put this to clothing, for example. And yeah, you'd have to have a new name for that. Okay. Same network security group, because you can have more than one. You can have all the rules and then tie them to the subnets. Okay. Now let's do one more compile. Yep, we're good there. Let's do Pulumi up. And let's see if this is going to work. And while it's thinkifying, go yes. Gonna build that stuff out. Okay, did that work? Address prefixes. Nope, that's a warning. Oh, silly me. Did I rub it? I didn't actually tell it to go build the NSG. So let's go do it right here. In fact, this part doesn't matter, so I can do build NSG right there. You can tell it's smarter than I am. Okay, CLS, Pulumi up. Let's go do that again. All right, let's do a double check here. There we go. It's going to create the NSG and the associations. Okay. Good deal. All right, and while that's doing that, if you guys, I don't know if I can drop again or not. You can play with the drop game. Uh-oh, got an error. It failed. Real parameters, source port ranges for rule ID. Okay. The SSH. Let's see. Why did that have a problem? Not specify a star for source port ranges. Why not? You should be able to. Okay, let's do that. Let's try this again. Thinkify. Did we get another error? Yep, we did. Cannot specify that for source port range. Okay. It doesn't like my particular syntax, so let's go back to that. Let's do that again. And as it sometimes happens, it's just going to take a little bit of finagling of just the right syntax for the make it operational. Is it going to work this time? Nope. Not specify the star for destination. Yes, you can. What am I missing here? For destination port, let's see. Destination port ranges. The ping action. You don't like. You don't like that. Okay. Then let's try this. I really thought you could do that. We shall see. Okay. Oh, what are you arguing about now? Ah, nice. You still have to have a source port range. Still has to be defined as something. Okay. You just don't like what I use. Okay, let's try this again. We shall try and fail and try again. Update failed. Let's see. Missing the rule. You got to have the destination port range. Okay. Well, fine. We can do it this way. Now, if it's going to argue on that one, let's see, it should not argue on the other one. It better work. I'm losing viewers. Oh well, it's all part of it. All part of the fun here. Hey, it's finally creating. Okay. Let's do another drop. Let's have some fun. Uh-oh. Am I gonna hit it this time? Angle looks good. Oh. If I nail it, Chad's gonna tell me it's rigged. Yeah, you got this. 71.69. That's my best one of one. Okay, so this is finished. Creating that good stuff. So now what I want to do is, and we'll come back to this particular VM. I want to come back to the network security group, NSG, that was created. And you see the two inbound security rules, 200 and SSH, that we did just for the heck of it. And you can see they're set to deny any traffic from this network here, from the which is the whole no, yeah, from the whole VNet that we made. It was a /24. to these VMs specifically. Now, what that should mean, if I come over to here, re-engage the serial console, okay. If I was to, let's see, I am .132 here. If I ping 10.0.0.133, it should not work. Let that go for just a couple of seconds. Boom, 100% packet loss. So good. We know that the NSG, you can see the associated with the two subnets, and the ping is in effect. And you can see the list of subnets right here that it's been associated to. So, good. That is working. All right, let's go back to our agenda. Build out the NSG. We're supposed to allow merchants but block everybody else. That needs to be further defined, and I'll work on that because I want to set this up so that traffic to the suppliers is allowed, but only from merchants, not from internet, not from anybody else except for specific merchants. So I will do that a little bit later though. And we are at 3 hours and I've got most of this done, but I'm going to head off for some lunch and grab and stretch and grab some water and such. So, but we got a lot done today. Got a lot done. Yeah, this 3 hours has flown by quick. It really, really has. And learned a little bit, got corrected on some things I misunderstood about Pulumi, so that was great. And got some scripts ready to go for my talk next week. And I'll put this out there one more time. That's code palooza.com. And yes, we are going to do a raid. Who's out? Who's up for a raid? There's I see Dev Chatter. MB Crump is on, but I did raid him last time. So I missed the beginning. Is this a demo project? Okay, so yeah, so here's the beginning of this. Next week, I'm doing a talk at hey, Kalo Creation, thanks for stopping by. Definitely check out, I don't have the bot set up yet, so I can't do shout outs. But definitely check out Kalo Creation. Got some fantastic stuff that he does. So I'm giving a conference talk next week on Azure networking, as well as microservices. That's my other talk, but this one's on Azure networking. And as I have the storyline of a medieval time period, is next to a castle is a courtyard of such, where they set up tents and other booths and stuff. So you have the merchants and you have the suppliers. The suppliers only sell to the merchants, and the merchants sell to the customers. And Kalo Creation, you're very welcome, buddy. And really, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it. So with the medieval storyline, I'm using that as a kind of an overlay, if you will, for talking about interaction, about customer traffic, and how that's going to be the network traffic. And this script is to help build out the resources that I'm going to use during that talk. So I have a little bit more to do, but it also doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be kind of far enough along that I can run some scripts at different times through the talk and have some things built out for me on the fly. And so I don't have to worry about things during the talk. So to me, it's kind of a win-win where I get to stream about something I need to do. I'm kind of passionate about this and really enjoy not just C# but Pulumi and the Azure stuff. So anyway, having some fun with this. So okay, I'm gonna head off here. I'm gonna go ahead and rave Dev Chatter, and let me double check though, because I don't know how long he's actually been on. If he's been on about 3 hours. No, he's only been on for an hour. So he'll be on for a little while. So, Ancient Coder, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. All right, we'll do a raid with, let me make sure I got the right spelling, Dev Chatter. So thank you guys very much for coming. I really appreciate it.